everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on Twitter, as well as the Carving It Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. As always, I'm Bryson Carver. Very excited to be with you on this jam-packed Monday show. And this is actually the second show in a row. We're 15 minutes in. Barry Grant Jr. of the All Even Podcast is going to be joining us because he's got more to say on this Darvin Ham issue, because it's been the topic of much discussion on morning debate television in the world of professional sports. First Take, Undisputed, every show out there. Darvin Ham's dismissal from the Los Angeles Lakers has been discussed. We'll get into that in 15 minutes. Also going to discuss the Los Angeles Clippers, why they are absolutely, positively done, irrelevant, never to be seen again as it pertains to the conversation of competing for championships for at least the next 10 years. I'll detail that toward the end of the show. Also, the Tom Brady Roast I thought was hilarious. Going to get into that later. And to me, my biggest takeaway from the Netflix Tom Brady Roast last night, I'll get to that in about 30 to 45 minutes from now. Also, by the Denver Nuggets, let's not overreact to the game one loss. They'll be fine. And I actually have a stat that will detail. It's sort of a theory I've had going back to the Lakers series about a little issue that's plaguing the Denver Nuggets that I think is very much something that they can be able to get rid of. So definitely excited to get into that later in the show in about 10 minutes or so. Looks like we've already got a comment. Patrick Brown, happy Monday, everybody. Happy Monday to you, Patrick Brown. Chaotic Sports, not Sports Podcast, Chaotic Sports, who's, by the way, Patrick is writing some great articles now on the Grid website. He just did like a rebrand change. So shout out to him. Check out his stuff on social media and on the Grid Network website. But first, we truly are, and I was late to the party, but we're seeing a superstar being born right in front of our eyes. His name's Anthony Edwards. So game one, Timberwolves, Nuggets. I picked the Nuggets to win this series in 6 games. I still hold true to that prediction. I think they'll get it right tonight in game 2, tie the series before it heads back to Minnesota. Anthony Edwards in this game dropped 43 points on the Denver Nuggets, grabbed 7 boards, did so, by the way, on 17 of 29 shooting from the field. Very efficient and 3 for 7 from three-point range. So there's a few things in Anthony Edwards to kind of address. The first is the Jordan comparisons. I'll get to that. Then I'll get into sort of the positives, which I don't even think this is necessarily tearing a young man down. He's 22 years old. He's a kid. But the Michael Jordan comparisons, they got to stop. They got to. Now, I'm the very rare, and they come few and far between. I'm one of them. Of those who believe LeBron James is the greatest basketball player to ever live, and also say, yeah, there's a case for MJ. That's what bothers me about the MJ-LeBron debate is the MJ fans say it's MJ by a mile, and the LeBron fans say it's LeBron by a mile. No. Either way, it isn't by a mile. That's the one case you can't make, is that it's Jordan easily or LeBron easily. That case does not exist. That said, so I do believe Jordan is absolutely, without question, no worse than the second best player ever. I don't know if it's because Anthony Edwards kind of looks like Michael. There's the whole, hey, maybe Anthony Edwards might be MJ's son, and that internet stuff. I don't know what it is. The game is sort of similar, even though it's not that similar. But the point of it all is, we can show you Anthony Edwards' playoff stats. He's played 16 playoff games in his career. We can show you stats. They are excellent. 29.8. Let's call that 30 points a game, 5 rebounds, 4.5 assists, 1.6 steals, 1.4 blocks, shooting 49% for the field, 39 from 3, 84 from the line. So very efficient shooting. He's got an 8-8 record in the postseason. He has won 1 playoff series, which he did obviously just a week ago against the Phoenix Suns. But to compare that to Michael, as far as the counting stats, it's Michael in every single stat. It's points per game. He's up by almost 10, 38 points per game, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 2.3 steals, which is excellent. This is, by the way, Jordan's first 16 playoff games. 1.5 blocks per game, 49 from the field, only 26% from 3, basically 88% from the line. Now he has a 4-12 record, one playoff series win, just like Anthony Edwards. Now the 4-12 is one of the 3 things that MJ fans fail to bring up in the GOAT argument. That's another conversation for another day. But as far as the counting stats, the points per game, all that, MJ's better than Anthony Edwards. And again, we're comparing him to, worst case, the second best player of all time. We can get into that another day. So it's unfair to Anthony Edwards, and he even said recently, I don't know if it was yesterday or today, like, guys, stop comparing me to Michael. Like, stop. We'll see if the media follows suit. But I talked about this last week when Minnesota swept Phoenix. That series, I was 6-2 on first round playoff predictions. Appreciate you screwing me over, Cleveland. Screw y'all. But I was 6-2 my playoff predictions. That was one of the two I got wrong because I didn't believe in Phoenix all season long, but I also didn't believe in Minnesota. I thought there were certain matchups the Suns could expose. It went the other way, and Minnesota was very clearly the better team, swept the playoff series. I was watching Anthony Edwards. I'm like, okay, he's outperforming Devin Booker. Well, he's better than Devin Booker. He's outperforming Kevin Durant. I'm like, dang, we may have to start having a conversation. Is Anthony Edwards a better basketball player than Kevin Durant? KD may be near 17, but he's still awesome. But more than that, and I went through the 7 players since 1984. I did the segment on this last week. To me, there's been 7 players since 1984, which is the first time that Magic and Bird played in the finals. And we all acknowledge Magic and Bird saved the league. They saved the league. Okay, the Celtics and the Lakers were in every single NBA finals in the 1980s. The NBA was irrelevant in the 70s because I had parity, and it didn't have star power the way it did starting in the 80s. We see parity now. The ratings are down. Guys, we need a dynasty. Another show, conversation for another show. Since 1984, we've had 7 faces of the league. Bird and Magic, which you could almost say they almost share a spot because of their shared importance to the NBA. Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal, Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Steph Curry. To me, those are the only 7 guys that can say absolutely without a shadow of a doubt they were at one point in their career for an extended period of time. You thought about the NBA, they were the first person you thought of. They were the star or superstar player in the NBA. Now, they weren't always the best player. When Kobe Bryant was the face of the NBA, you can make a case Duncan was better because he was winning more. You can make a case LeBron was better because he was the better overall package of a basketball player. I mean, Bird and Magic, it was kind of a shared title. Magic all time's the better player than Bird, but Bird at one point won 3 straight MVPs. It was discussion. It's not always been Jordan, who was obviously the best player, or LeBron, obviously the best player when those two were the face of the league. Steph, I believe, for about 3-4 years was the best player in basketball, but there was an argument for other guys. LeBron was at the end of his prime. KD was doing great stuff. Jokic kind of took the title from Steph last year, in my estimation. I don't think there's anything that Anthony Edwards can do this year, if the Timberwolves win the championship, that'll have me saying best player in the league. But because he swept KD, because he outplayed KD, and that matters, playing the superstars of the NBA, future, no question, first ballot Hall of Famers, legends, top 20 players of all time. I said, if he puts up a fight if we are having a discussion, when this Nuggets-Timberwolves series is over, I believe Denver's going to win. A lot of other folks say, hey, Minnesota, I think, could win this series. Minnesota's up 1-0. If at the end of this series we say, Jokic, Ant, toss up. You can make a lot of cases. You could say Jokic was the best player. You could say Ant-Man was the best player. If we are having a discussion, who is the best player in the series? Jokic, who I believe and a lot of folks believe to be the best player in basketball, or Ant Edwards, then he's the face of the league. Steph, I think, is still in his prime. I think he got worn down at the end of last season because of a number of internal and external factors. Steph's in his prime. Steph's never going to be the best player in the league again. LeBron's not. KD's not. Giannis could, but I think Jokic is a better overall player than Giannis and has had more success more recently than Giannis has. But if Ant plays that guy, and let's be honest, and I've talked about this, the NBA is a North American brand. It's popular worldwide, but we're based out of North America. Obviously, Canada has a team, the Toronto Raptors. 29 other teams reside in the United States of America. There is an advantage. There is an advantage to being the best player or the face of the NBA as an American-born player. Folks were hoping it was Zion. The injuries have sapped that. Folks were hoping it was Ja. Off the court issues have sapped that. This kid has you say, well, Bryson, why not Jason Tatum or Jokic or Giannis? Because Ant, he's got the charisma, he's got the big smile, he's got the swag. Like, these things matter. The other 7 guys I mentioned, they had that. Magic, Bird, Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, Steph. They all had a swagger. They had a presence about them. They had this aura that was like, oh, there's that dude. Like, last 5 minutes of the game, whoa, do not want that guy with the basketball. Shaq a little different because he was a center, but you still want the ball in Shaq's hands at any point in the game. Anthony Edwards has done that. He's got the movie with Adam Sandler. I forget what the movie's called. It's escaped my mind, the Netflix movie from a couple years ago. He's in that. He's funny. He's relatable. He's got an easy game to watch and root for. I love Jokic, best player in the world. This game's kind of boring. Ant Edwards is not. He's got the flashy dunks. He can block a shot. He's an excellent three-point shooter. He can get his teammates involved. Not saying he's LeBron James as far as the full package or Jokic, but he's got a fun game to watch. So as far as the Jordan and Edwards comparisons, I hate it for the sake that I don't want that pressure on the kid. He's 22 years. You get people forget. He's in year 4. He's 22. That said, if he plays Jokic to a draw, regardless of the outcome of this series, and I do believe Denver's going to win, regardless of the outcome, that kid's the face of the NBA now. No question. And keep in mind the franchise he's doing it with. Magic Bird, Lakers, Celtics. Jordan, Bulls, but Chicago's a big market. Haven't been successful prior to Jordan or after Jordan, really, outside of a couple one conference finals appearance with D Rose, but big market Chicago. Shaq, Laker. Kobe, Laker. LeBron, eventually Laker. Steph, again, Warriors were successful in, prior, to 1975, sucked after that. And then obviously he revitalizes them starting in 2015, winning a championship. But San Francisco, Oakland, big markets. California, Minnesota. Kevin Garnett couldn't do this in Minnesota. Kevin Garnett's a legend. One of the 20 best players to ever do it. So kudos to Anthony Edwards. And it's going to be fun to continue to see his ascension. There's no question about that. Comments real quick, then I'll get to Denver. Patrick says Hustle was the thank you. I was thinking Hustle, but yeah, you're right. Hustle was the movie that was with Edwards. Patrick, Wolves roster is built to stop Jokic. A three-headed monster can create matchups and make it difficult. I'll say this. It's impossible to stop Jokic because it's impossible to stop all-time great players. They can make it tough on him. Now, the thing is, Rudy Gobert's out tonight, or could be out tonight because I think that he just had a child recently. So congratulations to the Goberts. I may be hard on Rudy, but listen, it's a new beautiful child in the world. So shout out to them. I think Denver will make adjustments. So here's my brief take on Denver. And Barry will come on in a few minutes. I thought about this in the last series. And it's why I really looked at it as an indictment on the Lakers when they played the Nuggets, because Denver's obviously the better team. But when that series was over, I said, okay, either Denver is sleepwalking, going through the motions the first half, and then flipping a switch come third quarter, or, it's just not playing their best. They're not playing their best basketball, and they're still beating the Lakers. Either way, it's bad for LA. I'm starting to think it was the former. I'm starting to think that the Nuggets going into that series against the Lakers, we're better than them. We swept them last year. We swept them in the regular season this year. We are a better basketball team no matter how you slice it. Best player on the floor, best coach. We got arguably the clutchest player in the series just this year. Obviously, LeBron's one of the most clutch players ever. We've got the advantage in every way, shape, and form. Home court, we're better than the Lakers. So they sleepwalked in the first half. And the numbers show you that. Look at these. The margins of the Denver Nuggets, halftime margins for the Denver Nuggets in the first round series against the Lakers. Game by game. Game 1, down 3. Game 2, down 15. Game 4, down 4. Game 3, down 4, rather. Game 4, down 13. Game 5, they were down 3. They won 4 of those 5 games, obviously, and won in a gentleman's sweep. This game against the Minnesota Timberwolves got off to a bad start. I mean, they were awful in the first quarter. Ended up trailing at halftime trail at halftime? No, my bad. They were actually up at halftime. My bad. They were actually up at halftime in this game. But kind of sleepwalking, turning on occasionally, but not necessarily taking the opponent seriously like, hey, we gentlemen swept the Lakers. Minnesota swept the Suns, but no one really bought into the Suns. We were way better than the Suns. We're way better than just about the entire Western Conference, not really taking them that seriously. I think you could see an avalanche tonight in Denver, Colorado. I could see a blowout. I could see blowout city, Denver coming in. They can't go down 2-0, lose their first 2 home games. In that case, I'd say Minnesota's got about a 90% chance to win. I won't count out the champs because you don't do that. But this is a situation where I think Denver has to come in, assert themselves from the jump, and understand the fact, again, you can't sleepwalk the first halves like you did against the Lakers and trail every single game at halftime, win 4 out of the 5. Got to take Minnesota seriously from the jump. You darn sure got to take Ant Edwards seriously from the jump. His relentless energy is off the charts. And also, by the way, be sure to win the minutes when Ant is either on the bench or kind of takes his foot off the gas a little bit in the third quarter because he goes crazy in the first half, slows down the third quarter, finishes the job in the fourth. So that's something to keep your eye on tonight. There's no question about that. But something else, too, is the fact I don't think we've ever done this, ever, on Carving It Up Live, is have a guest on 2 straight shows for essentially the same reason. but I'm very excited to make history today, to make Carving Up history today, because joining Carving Up Live once again is the host of the All Even podcast. He is the co-founder of what is called the Grid Network. He is the founder of the 8 o'clock spot. Would you please give a warm re-welcome to Barry Grant Jr. Barry, sir, how you doing today?
See my face?
You don't look thrilled.
No.
Okay.
The reason why, and listen, I'm always thrilled to be a part of Carving It Up with my dear brother Bryson Carver, who is probably arguably one of the best young minds, young podcasters, young analysts out there. So please give my man the respect and sub, because if you don't jump on the wave now, you're going to be one of those bandwagon type of people when it does get crazy. So yeah, I listen, I do a show every Friday, right? It's a lot of time that passes before then. So couldn't help myself when I seen all of the commentary and talking from all the media pundits. I hit you up this morning and said, please, Bryson, I'd love to come on. Yep. Because I can't hold it anymore. Pause. That was my intro. So
yeah, that was your intro. Okay, well, listen. So we'll just dive into. So Darvin Ham was fired. We talked about that Friday. You and I both agree with the decision, and I told you then. I'm definitely telling you now. I feel like I am in the twilight zone because this. Apparently, at least you told me that there was comparisons to Mark Jackson in Golden State, which, that was the first year I was a Warriors fan was the first year, was the last year with Mark Jackson. They fired him. Remember at the time then, even the players then, they'll tell you now, we're like, the heck are we doing? This guy won 51 games. We've gotten better every year. He's developed this organization. But Darvin Ham's fired on Friday. There's time to let it bake over the weekend, and the takes today are, and again, people I respect. Stephen A. Smith, the coach killing, so to speak, is the reason LeBron has 4 rings, not 6. Kendrick Perkins said, listen, Kendrick Perkins seems like a nice enough guy. I think his analysis is an F-, just like Shady McCoy. The point is, he's out there talking about how, LeBron is going to hurt his legacy by continuing to play. I wish he'd just retire. Could you please explain this to me, Barry? Because I'm pretty sure I know why, but I want to know your take why this is the case.
So when I mentioned Mark Jackson, I don't think that anybody mentioned Mark Jackson, but what I'm saying is that I was tongue in cheek in saying that I guess Darvin Ham is Mark Jackson now. I guess the outrage that people are seeing is because we're witnessing the next Mark Jackson. I see that he's being railroaded and he should have never lost his job. And how dare the Golden State Warriors do this to him? And he needs to be vindicated every time that there's a job opening. Mark Jackson's name gets called up.
Yep.
This is not that. Every single person that has been critical of the Lakers firing Darvin Ham, they don't watch Laker games every day. They are not in the Lakers media every day. They're not in the press conferences every day. They don't understand what's going on. Probably a lot of them haven't even read the Shams article that dropped. So, Stephen A. Smith, I know he's tapped in the NBA, but I can guarantee you he's not watching every Laker game. Michael Wilbon, not watching every Laker game. Every single Laker reporter or pundit out there has said that this is a justifiable firing just because of all the stories that you heard out there and what they've seen with their own eyes. But here's something I'd like to say about what Stephen A. Smith said, that if LeBron James wasn't this coach killer, he'd have 6 rings. You see how he stops at 6? Because they're always obsessed with one person. Newsflash about Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan had 4 or 5 coaches in his career. The Bucks stopped with Phil Jackson. He had Doug Collins. He had a whole bunch but he won championships with a Hall of Fame head coach. Let's go to Kobe Bryant, shall we? I have a list here. And mind you, I am a Kobe, one of the biggest things, right? Do you know how many coaches Kobe Bryant had in his 20-year career?
How many?
He had 9.
Wow. Actually, that's exactly as many as LeBron.
Oh, but you won't hear that. I'll go through the list for you. Let's read them. In order: Del Harris, Bill Burtka, Kurt Rambis, Phil Jackson, Rudy Tomjanovich, Frank Hamblin, Mike Brown, Bernie Bickerstaff, Mike D'Antoni, and Byron Scott. All coaches that coached Kobe Bryant in his career. But you never hear about the narrative that Kobe was a coach killer. You know why? Because Kobe had a Hall of Fame coach that got him 5 championship rings.
Yeah.
You see the trend here is that the 2 people that they think are the GOATs in this game had one coach to get them all of their championship rings. Now let's go ahead and go look at LeBron James, shall we? Paul Silas, Brendan Malone, who was an interim head coach, Mike Brown, Eric Spoelstra, David Blatt, Ty Lue, Luke Walton, Frank Vogel, and Darvin Ham. Now there's 2 names on that list that have titles. Can you tell me that if anybody else is on this list that is the next Greg Popovich, I'd love to see it, because Frank Vogel may be on his way out of Phoenix. Sure. Darvin Ham is going to be, according to Woj, he'll be much sought after. David Blatt, where's he? No longer in the NBA. Mike Brown is coaching some other team. Has he won a championship? Brendan Malone, no. Paul Silas, rest in peace, right? Think about all of these guys that are on this list. None of them won championships after getting fired. None of them warrant this public outrage of, it's ridiculous. I'm telling you, I've heard some things in the media for years. This may be the dumbest thing I've heard in quite some time. And I'm not going to lie to you.
Well, one thing, too, is what I find humorous, and you mentioned the Jordan thing, I think you're spot on, is that when you hear the defense of Darvin Ham, they never mention why Darvin Ham was a coach. If you notice that, they never mention, they say it was a wrong move and LeBron's a coach killer. Oh, well, what about Darvin? If Darvin was done dirty, so Darvin had to do something right. Well, and I'm glad you brought up the coaches, though, because I actually do literally have in my notes a list where Paul, again, like you said, Paul Silas, rest in peace, won 26% of his games after LeBron. Yep. Mike Brown has not won a single playoff series since LeBron. Spo's the best coach in the NBA. We'll put him aside.
Hasn't won a title since, though.
He has it, but in fairness, I don't think the rosters
have been right. Obviously, they've been the championship, so that doesn't really count. It's a moot point.
And that's actually, to me, real quick, I think that's actually been one of the few criticisms I have had LeBron. I don't think he should have left Miami, but that's another point.
No, but him and Pat Riley didn't really get along.
That's true. That's true. Blatt never coached the NBA again, and is 2 games over 500 overseas. Ty Lue, I think, is an excellent coach. Hasn't won a conference finals since LeBron left him. Luke Walton won 42% of his games since the Lakers fired him, and Frank Vogel, like you said, is probably about to get fired. So, like you said, it's not like these are, again, Steve Kerr, Greg Popovich guys. Like these are generally, outside of Ty Lue and certainly Spo, run-of-the-mill coaches. And so, but more than anything, like you said, I'm glad you mentioned the Stephen A. point. Like, he stopped at 6. He didn't keep going. He didn't say he just had more than 4. Is the fact that, again, the Jordan comparisons. Meanwhile, again, Kareem has many championships than Jordan. Kareem has more MVPs than Jordan. Bill Russell has more finals championships than anybody. It is Anthony Edwards' point. Anthony Edwards had a great quote the other day where he said, I've never seen a guy get more hate, any athlete. And it truly does blow my mind. But
it's
as
comical,
far as, is there anything else you want to say in regards to the media coverage of Darvin? Because and you mentioned the Shams article that no one's really brought that up about just
nobody's talking about it like it doesn't exist. Nobody's talking about it. Anybody who, I'm telling you, they did a poll with Laker fans, real Laker fans. They did a poll. 87% of Laker fans wanted Darvin Ham fired. 87%. So this is not something that was just out of the blue. The Lakers management listened to the fans, and they also listened to the players, who I told you there was a mini mutiny going on in the locker room. It didn't just have to be with LeBron and AD. Yeah, that's where the buck stops. Austin Reeves wasn't happy. D'Lo wasn't happy. There's a lot of other guys that weren't happy, that thought that guys like Taurean Prince and Cam Reddish shouldn't have been getting the minutes that they were getting, but because there's Atlanta ties there, he favored those guys over everybody else. Look at how the season started. They lose to Denver. Right? You Re-sign the guys because you want to deal with the depth. You want to have depth on your roster to compete. Guys get hurt, and Vando got hurt the start of the season, but you completely shift the starting lineup and you put Torian Prince
instead of Rui
in the starting lineup instead of Rui, where the chemistry of that particular team was 4 games away from getting to an NBA championship. This is why from that point on, it was off the rails. It was completely off the rails. Players didn't respect them. They won that in-season tournament on their own merit because they wanted to play. They wanted to win that thing. They didn't win it because Darvin Ham did anything crazy or he did some coaching job that will warrant a Eric Spoelstra type of playbook. It never happened. Right. It never happened. Last thing I want to say before we move on is that as vanilla as Frank Vogel was for the Lakers, he won a championship. Whether people want to give him credit for that or not, he won a championship. That's a title in the books, right? But one thing I can tell you about Frank Vogel is that he never looked like he lost the press conference. He always came prepared. He was always professional. And the players, I don't necessarily think that the players lost respect for Frank Vogel. I think they respected him a lot. I just believe that his offensive schemes were very limited at best, and it caused him to not be the sexy pick, right? Sure. Even after a championship, it was just like, yeah, Vogel's okay, but whatever, right? But Darvin Ham is the complete opposite. Lost the press conference. He's always making excuses. Never takes accountability. His schemes were bad. His substitution packages were bad. His favoritism was bad. Like once the LeBron and AD start to say things about you, then you already know that you're cooked. But once guys like Austin Reeves start to show their displeasure on the bench, and Austin Reeves is nobody's superstar, that's when you know that you have a problem. It's not when the superstars complain, because superstars complain all the time. Sure. It's when your ancillary players are starting to complain about the same shit.
Right. Well, no, it's also too, you mentioned Frank Vogel, that's sort of a limited offensive system. And again, I thought he was scapegoated because of a failed Westbrook experience.
Yeah.
I put that more in the front office. And by the way, to a degree on LeBron, because he did want Westbrook there. But like you said, he didn't lose the press conference, all that. And, it's funny in my basketball playing days, Barry, which I'm just going to tell you right now, I was not exactly Kevin Durant. I actually, not going to name names, obviously, but I had a coach like Darvin Ham where when the fit hit the shan, so to speak, it was kind of y'all figure it out.
Yep.
Hands them up. Y'all figure it out. Like not calling timeouts during runs, like which used to kind of drive me crazy. And I watch Laker games, and it's again, not as much as you do, but again, they're on national TV a lot. It's hard to miss them. And again, it's just a complete disconnect. John Rivera, by the way, says that Ham's going to coach the Mets next year. How would you feel about that, Barry?
Listen, if you want to see people riot in Queens, hire Darvin Ham. Hire Darvin Ham.
That'd be hilarious. Quickly, and I'm going to talk about this later in the show, shifting to another playoff series, which just ended, that it does involve an LA team. Clippers get knocked out in 6 against the Dallas Mavericks. I know that makes you smile from ear to ear. And we can, by the way, go and put up the graphic here, what the Clippers have done since the whole Kawhi Leonard, Paul George experiment started. Second round loss, blew a 3-1 lead, lost the conference finals when Paul George got him there, missed the playoffs in 22, and then in the last 2 years have gone out in round 1, have won a combined 3 playoff games. So your overall takeaway on the Clippers, listen, the Harden trade is what I really want to focus on later, but your overall thoughts on the Clippers this season and pretty much going up in smoke. It looks like this Kawhi Paul George thing may be going up in smoke too.
I had the season finale of my favorite segment, dehumidifiers and space heaters, on Friday night, and it was very, very sad because I love to cover the Clippers and I love to cover the destruction of the Clippers. It's nothing shocking to me. You get what you sign up for. This is my thing about life, right? If you go to a discount store and you try to buy cheap things that break down, but you know that you're getting a bargain on it and you buy it anyway and it breaks down, you can't really blame anybody but yourself because you decided to go the discount route. Fine. The Clippers have always been a desperate franchise, and I keep trying to tell people, desperate franchises will put themselves in these particular situations. The Brooklyn Nets, the Clippers, because they don't win. They don't understand what winning culture is. They have no idea what a really cohesive structure looks like. So they will go ahead and be fooled by a Kawhi Leonard and accept his 40 games a season, and he can barely play in the playoffs. You'll be fooled by a guy like Paul George that claims that he's the guy, but has publicly admitted that he's more of a third wheel or a second banana. Why would you give a guy like that any max money when you know that you can't trust him in big situations? You go ahead and you invest and trade for James Harden, who has had a lifetime of failure after failure after failure at every particular stop he's gone to. You have Russell Westbrook, who's the leader on the court and the emotional leader. You got him getting thrown out of games because he wants to play wrestling with Luka Doncic, and that's okay. Everybody's giving him props for that. This franchise is a joke because of how they look at their team. And poor Ty Lue, if he wants to be associated with this garbage, that's still to you. Go ahead and sign an extension and continue to be the coach of the team that will never, ever get close to winning a championship. They're a joke. They've always been a joke, and the reason why they are is because they don't take themselves seriously. You can't take yourself seriously if you have guys like James Harden and Russell Westbrook and Paul George on your team that are literally, you're looking for them to save you. It's never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Yeah, no, it wasn't. And again, like you said, you are putting together a team full of guys that have never succeeded in the playoffs in their roles.
Never.
Like I think Paul George can be the number 2 on a title team. I really do. If he's got a reliable number 1. Like again, I'm suggesting Golden State. Like if he was, I remember for years there was the Kevin Love to the Indiana Pacers trade rumors for Paul George. Like that could have worked, I think. Like as Paul George with the 2 to LeBron, or the 3, I guess, to Kyrie there as well. Like that could work. But again, James Harden is your lead guard. I mean, sure, did it fill a need for the Clippers? Did they need a point guard? Sure, but that's the guy you go get. You don't. I think I'm the number 1 Trey Mann fan in the history of the world. Obviously I think he's with the Washington Wizards right now. Like I thought he did a great job in Jaws apps. Get a guy like that. Like that's somebody who can really shore up and be a consistent guy in the playoffs. We've seen it. So go get a guy like James Harden. I thought was an absolute joke. I'll ask you this because I'm going to touch on this in just a second. Did you see the Brady roast last night?
I have not. I've been hearing so many great things about him, and I have to check it out.
You got to watch it. No, it was absolutely hilarious. But no, I thought Bledsoe might have been the funniest one that night. And Belichick actually did a pretty good job too. Belichick did good. Yeah, for sure. I'll just put it this way. Make sure Roman's not in the room when you're watching. It's probably it's not suitable for the kids.
Right. It's not for the kids.
It was funny. Anthony Edwards. Thoughts on him? I know I think you and I are on the same page. Like, let's slow down the Jordan comparisons. But generally speaking, do you think he can become the face of the NBA in pretty short order?
Yeah, I think he can. I think that's what you're looking for. He's 22 years old. He's turning 23 later in the year. This is a guy that you want to put your cart behind. You know what I mean? He's personable, great smile, great game. It sucks that he's in Minnesota because that's just hard to market. But yeah, he can definitely be the star of your organization. He can be the face of the NBA because his game backs it up. If you want kids to be able to look at a kid and say, man, I want to be like that guy. Anthony Edwards is that guy, right? Like he has everything, all the measurables that you want in a superstar. And the age is there as well, where you can be able to invest in a guy like this for the next 12 years, right? So yeah, I think that he's on his way. The Jordan comparison, obviously, he took a lot of his game from Jordan, right? You can tell his mannerisms, how he plays, how he handles himself. But for a kid to have the maturity to say, Jordan's the greatest player of all time, just please stop. Please let me just be myself. This is him saying this. And all of these people that have their Jordan posters on the walls and their Jordan blankets, and they're just hoping to see somebody else that has a glimmer of Jordan skill in them, they're going to go ahead and jump off their chair and just relax. Jordan's retired. Enjoy the VHS tapes that you have. Keep watching The Last Dance and let Anthony Edwards just be him. Let him be him. Let him have his own career. Let him carve out his own legacy. And who knows? Who knows if he'll ever be the next, if he'll be in the pantheons of Jordans and the Kobe Bryants and the Dwayne Wades after his career is done. But let him just be that. Stop comparing everybody to this guy. And more importantly, stop comparing everybody to Michael Jordan. This rent-free shit has to stop. I'm just done. Like even in football, we know that Brady is the GOAT, right?
Of course.
But you don't hear nobody talking about Patrick Mahomes as the next Brady. They're just saying that Patrick Mahomes may be in one of the greatest players of all time, if not the greatest, right? But there's no Brady comparison because they're two different players. How they do things are completely different. So stop. I'm telling you, I am so glad, Bryson, that I am not a part of any engine, ESPN, Fox, all of these. I'm just done. Because if I had to report on this every day, I'd probably call in sick. I call in sick that day because it's garbage. It's complete garbage that they talk about this nonsense every day and think that this is something that's furthering our sports knowledge, because it really isn't. It really isn't.
No, it isn't. Well, and I think too is, well, the one thing with faces of the NBA, and then I'll show you one super fast thing. I'll let you go. The things with faces of the NBA, I looked at since 1984, which is the first year that Magic and Bird faced in the finals. I looked for basically the last 40 years. I think we've had 7 faces of the league. I think it's been Magic, Bird, Jordan, Shaq, Kobe, LeBron, Steph. Because all those 7 guys, again, they got the shoe deals, they got the swagger, they've got, stuff off the court. Jokic is easily, to me, the best player in the league. Tim Duncan was about 20 years ago. But again, they don't necessarily want it. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I think Anthony Edwards does want that title, and it's something to definitely keep your eye on. But again, we can enjoy athletes without comparing them to legends. Like, let's enjoy their career, because we didn't do it to the previous generation.
Right. Enjoy
we didn't compare Michael Jordan to Jerry West.
Right.
So
let's just enjoy it, man. I love the kid. I think they have a very good chance going up 2-0. I think Jokic and the Nuggets will come back though, because the fact that Jokic took 9 threes in a game 1, that was very, very uncharacteristic. I can guarantee that he's going to cut that in half in game 2. And really, if Gobert is not playing, you're going to see a more aggressive Jokic in game 2.
I agree. That's the reason I actually think we could maybe see a blowout tonight, just because of the adjustments. But we'll see. Before you leave, super fast, I want to show you this. So you asked, who would have the most midi-chlorians on Friday's show before May the 4th. And, obviously Darth Vader, Anakin Skywalker is the most, 27,000. I went ahead and researched that and checked, and I think you'll be pleased to know that the franchise I compared him to was your beloved Lakers. Because of the sustained excellence, like Anakin, Vader, there was always this either jealousy or fear or combination of the two. So I thought that was the long-term comparison for the two.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm not going to say that was bad, because, of course, I'm going to agree. We've had a championship in every decade, man. We had a championship every decade. That no matter how bad we are and how dysfunctional we look, championships follow in that decade. That's all I'm saying. So, it's I appreciate it. I'm glad that you recognize that, and make sure that the Lakers are the gold standard.
Yeah, I mean, historically, we'll see, but whatever. Barry Grant Jr., awesome stuff as always. Appreciate you coming on the show once again, and I agree with everything you said about Darvin Ham for sure. But take care, my man. Have a good one.
All right, man. Be safe.
Barry Grant Jr., great stuff as always. Listen, he's 1,000% right in Ham. Like, again, it's the weirdest thing where oftentimes when coaches get fired, you see this. Either people say, "Oh, right decision, wrong decision." You rarely, and I misquoted him on the Mark Jackson stuff, because that was a little bit of a straw man on my part, because nobody was mentioning Mark Jackson's name specifically. But in the rare instances you do see a pouring out of sympathy for a coach when he gets fired, it's usually because, oh my God, this guy, like I remember this happened with Brian Flores in Miami, where it's like, dude, the Dolphins get better every year. His quarterback situation is awful. He took over a terrible spot and you fire it. Like, we've seen stuff like that before. But this, again, Mark Jackson, prime example. The Warriors got better every single year he was there. Okay, lost a drag-out 7-game series in the first round of the Clippers. You won 51 games that year. Steph was an all-star. And yeah, fire him. Now, there were some situations him in the front office, they didn't really jive that well. And again, by the way, it ended up being the right decision, because Steve Kerr coached him to 4 championships and really got the best. Steph was always going to be Steph, but got the best out of Clay and Draymond. So, but no, Here's my question to those that think it was the wrong move. What could LeBron and Anthony Davis, obviously the two best players on the team, two of worst case the 12 best players in the world, what could they have done with Darvin Ham that they couldn't have done without Darvin Ham? So LeBron's going to go from 25-8-7 to 18-5-4. Like, really? Like, Anthony Davis is going to go from, what do you average, 25-12 to 20-10? Like, come on. Like, this is the logic, as it pertains to the criticism of this. It's ridiculous to me. It doesn't make sense at all. Looks, yeah, we got some Patrick Brown, flippers, slippers, blippers. It's all the same. It is. You know what? I'll help you out there, Patrick. Flippers, slippers, blippers. It don't matter. Mavs in 6. There you go. Mavs in 6. I picked Mavs in 5, so I was close enough. And I do think the Mavs are going to beat the Thunder in a class. I think this will be the best series of the second round, honestly. Like this, there's been a lot of hype around. Obviously, the Knicks are in the second round. There's a lot of hype around that. It's going to be a fun series with Indiana, kind of a 90s rematch, although very different style of play than the 90s. Thank God, because those series were yikes. Minnesota and Denver, again, big teams, athletic guards, clutch scoring guards, Jamal in Denver, and as I mentioned earlier, Anthony Edwards in Minnesota. But I think this is going to be the best series. Like, Boston's going to wax Cleveland. Like, it's just, but I think this is going to be the best series, where this young up-and-coming Oklahoma City team, this Mavs team where Kyrie Irving's finally found some semblance of a home in Dallas. He was the number 2 to KD, but he hasn't shown himself to be the bus driver, as Charles Barkley said, and it pissed KD off, but there is truth to it, to a championship. And it, again, is an unstable situation in Brooklyn. Dallas has really been a well-run franchise. I know not everybody likes Cuban. Cuban has done a pretty good job in Dallas. I ripped him last year when Brunson goes to the Knicks and flourishes, but looking back on it, maybe I wasn't right on that one, because does Brunson become the player he becomes without leaving the Dallas Mavericks? Because we saw Brunson early in that playoff series when Luka was out the first 3 games against the Jazz and Brunson was going for like 40 burgers. So it was there, but because Brunson and Luka are both kind of ball-dominant guys, Kyrie can play off the ball. So again, that's going to be the best series of the first round. It really is. Yeah, I think that's going 7 games. I think Dallas wins it in Oklahoma City in the end, and it gets to the conference finals. And Patrick mentioned, Mavs signed Kidd to a new extension. Did that just come in? Because I was not aware of this. If so, that is because I know they were working on an extension. I don't know. Maybe my head was in the sand and I missed that one, but I appreciate you bringing that up. Let's see, because I am always wanting to stay on top of this stuff. Oh, yeah, this came in earlier today, so I must have totally missed that. So appreciate you, Patrick. Yeah. Shams Charania reports that Jason Kidd has signed an extension, and as they should. So, I mean, there were reports maybe the Lakers go after Kidd, but Dallas is a way better situation. You have one of the 5 best players in the world in Luka, one of the worst case 15 best players in the world in Kyrie. The roster is well put together. The Gafford trade worked. I was always high on Derek Lively coming into last year's draft, so to see him flourish in Dallas is really cool to see. And so, yeah, kudos to the Mavs and to their front office. And Nico Harrison, by the way, GM of the team, is doing a really good job. Also, it should be noted that we. What? Okay. Timeout. This just came in just a second ago. This is wow. Breaking news. The Cleveland Cavaliers have won a playoff series without LeBron James. That is the first time that they have done so since the first year, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, since the first year of the Bill Clinton administration. Folks, I was a decade away from existing. So listen, Cavs fan, Mike Guido, shout out to, I love Guido, but Guido was just trolling me over the weekend. You said we'd lose to the Magic. I'm like, dude, I said it'd go 7. I said Orlando couldn't make a shot in the second half, which that shouldn't be surprising to me because they were 22nd in offense this year. Nonetheless, listen, congratulations. You won a playoff series without LeBron for the first time in 31 years. I am blown away. I am impressed. I am flummoxed. I mean, listen, it took the Miami Heat 2 years to win without LeBron, but nonetheless, it's for Cleveland. They don't accomplish much. The Browns have been irrelevant forever. The Guardians / Indians, whatever what they used to be, haven't won a World Series since, like 1945. So since like the post-World War II era, it's, so listen, you got to take what you can get. You got to take what you can get in Cleveland, Ohio. You know what I'm saying? It's winning and great moments come few and far between in Cleveland. Just know you're about to get waxed by Boston in the second round. I mean, waxed. You'll get a game. But the other four, this is going to look like the Miami series, where Miami wins a game. Again, Miami goes crazy hot from 3 in game 2. Every other game, Boston destroyed them. That's what's going to be for the Cleveland Cavs. We may have like one semi-close game, but other than that, I said about the Celtics coming in the playoffs. They will not, should not, and I believe will not, but should not have more than 2 losses in the playoffs heading into the Eastern Conference Finals, given how easy their road to get there was. Patrick, I like the trajectory Orlando is going. Cavs, will get mopped by Boston. I agree with you on both. I've liked Paolo Banchero from the beginning. So, and by the way, I read today there's mutual interest between the Magic and Klay Thompson, which to me as a Warriors fan, I mean, I know I've been calling for like a year for the Warriors to move off Klay as much as I love Klay, but that will be kind of painful to see him in an Orlando I mean, it's better than seeing him in a Lakers uniform, I presume, but it's like Ewing in a Raptors jersey, and the Klay's not Ewing, but I'm just saying it's just it's weird. Okay, here's what was not weird, and actually what was kind of a blast and an absolute riot, and so fun to watch. The Brady Roast on Netflix last night. Now I didn't watch it live. I came in, went out to get dinner, came back, and it was about 8:45 Eastern. So the show was 45 minutes in. So I started watching it from the beginning. I thought the first little thing with Belichick, Bledsoe, and Brady was hilarious. And it kind of set the tone for what the night was going to be. Kevin Hart did a fantastic job hosting. You had, Kevin Hart, Nikki Glazer, you had some great comedians there. Much Patriots player doing roast, Gronk, Edelman, Jeff Ross, obviously the roast extraordinaire, the king of roast was, kind of got the night started off with a bang. But I thought it was an absolute grand slam for Netflix and a grand slam for everybody involved. But here's to me was my big takeaway about it, because everybody's talking about like, hey, man, Belichick, it was kind of funny. Brady did a good job. Listen, we knew Peyton Manning was funny. Like everybody, mom knows Peyton Manning's funny. The SNL skit back in the day, like Peyton's hilarious. But I thought what was honestly my favorite part about this show, about this roast, is the fact that, listen, nobody will ever mistake me for being a New England Patriots fan. I've always been a Brady fan. No, not always. I was a Peyton guy because, Tennessee and all that. But around 2016-ish, I became kind of a Brady fan. After the 28-3 comeback, I'm like, okay, I don't want to hate this guy anymore. Like, I want to appreciate the greatness that this man is putting on display. And it was a fun next, 5, 6, 7 years rooting for Tom after that. Didn't think he'd have that long, but it's Tom Brady. Who are we kidding? But the thing with the Patriots is, with dynasties, generally speaking, like part of what makes dynasties great is everybody hates them. Everybody's rooting for the next team to come out, knock off the team. The 80s Lakers, 90s Bulls. Although there was this weird thing, some really like the 90s Bulls. Okay, they're different from other dynasties. People wanted to knock out the 2010 Warriors and the Shaq Kobe Lakers and the Cowboys in the 90s, the Patriots for 20 years, the Chiefs now. And I literally did a segment during Super Bowl week saying, why does everybody hate Kansas City? I literally did a segment listing reasons why I actually find them one of the most likable teams in the league. Okay, Travis Kelce did a vaccine commercial and Taylor Swift leans left. Like, okay, if that is your barometer, and Mahomes' family is really annoying. If that's your barometer, I don't really consider that villainous. I got why people rooted against the Patriots. I pulled for Brady. I got why people didn't like the Patriots. Because Belichick is this Palpatine-esque hoodie, doesn't interact well with the media at all, cuts players just in cold-hearted fashion, the Malcolm Butler benching. I'm reading this Patriots Dynasty book right now. Like, Belichick was like cold-hearted dude as it pertained to business. Brady is this guy who looks like a model, was married to a supermodel for over a decade, rich, and then would always break your heart into 1,000 pieces late in games. Like, I got why people didn't like the Patriots. I don't think the Patriots organization has ever been more likable than last night. Listen, we knew Gronk was kind of the one fun guy, so to speak, in the Patriots franchise, the spike and all this. And Gronk was great. I mean, Gronk kept missing the teleprompter. I thought he was fantastic. I thought Edelman, who I figure was going to be hilarious because I think Julian's is a funny guy. Edelman came off well. I thought Bledsoe came early in the show. I thought he was as funny as some of the comedians, honest to God. Like, I thought he was, because when you consider the fact that people forget about Drew Bledsoe, people forget this. Drew Bledsoe was not, we portray him because Brady replaced him. Brady went on to be the GOAT. But Bledsoe was this typical average starting quarterback, like, who's a modern day example? Maybe not Tua, but I don't know. I'm struggling to come up with somebody off the top of my, I guess, or like a Joe Flacco. Like Joe Flacco won postseason run, but Joe Flacco is generally regarded as, he's a pretty good quarterback. Like, he can have great days or bad. Like, he's a slightly above average quarterback. That's kind of how we view Joe Flacco. That was Bledsoe. Like, Bledsoe went down as one of the greatest college quarterbacks ever. He was the first overall pick in the early 90s by the Patriots. And he signed the very first $100 million contract in NFL history in the early 2000s. Like, Bledsoe was not a good quarterback. He was an excellent quarterback. And you have to imagine, for that reason, it just made it all the more painful. And again, reading in this book, which I highly recommend, they made the documentary about it. Some portrayed it as anti-Belichick. Bill even made a joke about that last night. But I think the book I recommend it to anybody. Dynasty by Jeff Benedict. It's a fantastic read. I'm around like the 2008 after Super Bowl loss to the Giants era. I thought Bledsoe was hilarious. I thought, who else came up there? Bill Belichick was, I thought, for Belichick standards at least, hysterical. Kraft mentioned that he mentioned Putin gave me my ring back. There's a story actually in the book about how Vladimir Putin took Robert Kraft's ring. True story. Yeah, I thought it was just an all-around great. And I thought Brady was hilarious at the end. The Deflategate joke I thought was amazing. Again, Bledsoe had a joke about Brady's marriage and Bledsoe said today that when you have somebody like Tom who put together basically the very definition of a perfect football career. More championships than any franchise. He got Super Bowl MVPs, NFL regular season MVPs. He holds basically every record imaginable. He's good looking. He's a good guy. His Patriots teammates swear by him. Like, it's hard to find holes to poke, so you kind of poke them at Kraft, which Brady didn't appreciate. You poke him at Deflategate and Spygate. Randy Moss, too, by the way. I forgot Randy Moss. Randy Moss made the joke about, hey, why did you guys cheat while I was here? Like, because Randy was by far the best receiver Tom ever had, and was part of the 18-0 team and broke a bunch of records with Brady. But again, they fell to the Giants that year. And and Eli Manning even tweeted a joke today that I thought was funny. Like, I thought it was obviously a win for Netflix because God knows how much money they pulled in from a live special. But for Tom, we all knew Tom was funny. But again, yes, everybody's like, oh, well, he's getting paid. Like, you got to realize, I get the money. I understand that. Tom is sitting there for 3.5 hours getting absolutely, positively cooked by professional comedians, by his own teammates, by Belichick. It was, it takes, I think Kevin Hart even early on alluded to the fact, like, we've tried to get other athletes to do this and they wouldn't do it. Like, the money had to be in. It's Netflix, for crying out loud. Like, these are A-list comedians. I thought it was hilarious, but I thought more than anything, it debunked, maybe not debunked, but at least challenged the notion that I think many of us, myself included, held, that the Patriots are the kind of this stuck up NFL no fun, or NFL's no fun league, no fun allowed, no days off, do your job, like all the monikers we've become accustomed to with the New England Patriots over the years. Like, that kind of show, like, no, they're fun dudes. And I almost think it kind of endeared me to them a little bit more, that these are funny dudes who put that aside, put their egos to the side, and got 6 freaking titles. Like that, and sustained it for 2 decades. That to me was the overall takeaway from the Brady Roast special. Again, I thought it was hysterical. It was a win for comedy as well. It was a win for Tom. It was a win for Bill, by the way, who, didn't get hired because, Bill stuck up. Like, hey, listen, Bill could be funny. Bill was on with McAfee during the draft. So I thought it was really funny. I really did. And the reviews say as much. It was absolutely hysterical. So kudos to everybody involved. And kudos to Tom. Tom made all this money. Well, Tom also got... You could tell when Kevin Hart was doing some of the ropes to start, Tom was thinking in the back of his head, what the blank did I sign up for? Like, I didn't realize it was going to be this. But it was funny. All right, transition now to the Clippers. Barry and I discussed them briefly, but I wanted to really pour into something. I usually don't. That's a total lie, Bryson. I always pat myself on the back when I have great takes, because let's be real, there are many. I have bad takes, which I acknowledge as well. I think if you acknowledge the good ones and not the bad ones, then you are the very definition of a front runner and a coward. I acknowledge both. But this was an easy one. This was as simple and obvious as there was to see coming, is the fall and the demise of the 2024 Los Angeles Clippers. So I wasn't high on them coming into the season. They had an aging, often injured Kawhi Leonard. Paul George, who struggled with injuries and is good as a number 2 option, just not to Kawhi, who's going to get hurt, which would then vault Paul George to being a number 1 option. Westbrook is an inefficient turnover machine. Well, Coach Ty Lue, to get them to this point, kudos to Ty. And then, any hope they had, they dashed by trading for James Harden. Now, I want to look back at somebody who was talking about this trade when it happened. November 1st, I believe, is when it was first discussed by this particular individual. And how obvious it was that this was not going to work. By the way, the individual's me. Here you go. Due to this Harden trade and trades they made in the past, not only could they lose Harden, Kawhi, Tucker, Paul George, and Russ, not only could they lose all of them for nothing. Think about this. It isn't as if, okay, they're going to go for the championship this year. It's not going to work, and at least they'll go into a rebuild next year. No, they can't rebuild. For the next 5 years, the Clippers do not have control over their first-round picks or their second-round picks. They're stuck. So literally, unless they win the championship, they're done. For the next half decade, and it's not like, who are you going to trade? Terrence Mann, Amir Coffey. Again, some of these guys might be free agents for all I know. Bones Highland, Ivica Zubats. Really? That's the guys you're going to move to? I just saw they traded one of their centers today for cash considerations. They don't control their picks. Any of them. For the next half decade. And all of their star players are free agents. What are you doing? So look, first of all, I was slightly inaccurate on one of the points. I think they do hold a 2026 second rounder. Other than that, we can go and put the graph right here. Kawhi Leonard. So actually, let me take that off. Kawhi Leonard was slated to potentially be a free agent this summer or next summer. The Clippers dug themselves an even deeper hole by signing Kawhi to a 3-year extension in January. So Kawhi, who's 32, was injured 3 years ago, 2 years ago, last year, this year. They signed him to a 3-year extension through 2027. So we can go and put this graph up. It says Clippers are trapped. Kawhi, who's 32 and injured a lot, signed through 2027. Paul George has an option to become a free agent this summer. All the reports by Windhorst, by everybody, he's going to be a free agent. Unrestricted free agent. James Harden, unrestricted free agent in 2024. And the Los Angeles Clippers, 0. Count that, 0. First-round picks until 2030. That's where they're at today, folks. That's where they're at. And it is... See, they're pigeonholed because they can't suck. Because if they suck, guess what? They get nothing in return. See, usually, if you have an all-in situation, if you say, you know what, like last dance style, like the Chicago Bulls in 98, you're like, you know what? We are going to go all in. Jerry Jones, see other teams for reference on this. We're going to go all in. And then if it doesn't work, I'm going to blow it up, go in a rebuild. They can't do that because they don't have any first-round picks, and they have 1 second-round pick until 2030. Oh, yeah, they have Kawhi Leonard, my bad, who can't stay healthy to save his life. So who are you going to trade him for? Who's going to take Kawhi Leonard? So they're going to play him 30 games? Listen, I'm up in the mindset. I don't like load management. Barry, who was on earlier, did a great segment months ago talking about how there's actually science that supports that load management is actually bad for athletes. Certain guys, though, I think need it. Kawhi cannot survive. We saw this year. Kawhi played, I think, the longest regular season he's played since like 2016 or 17, and his body broke down in the playoffs. Or actually prior to the playoffs. He didn't even get to the finish line of the regular season. Who's going to trade for him? Paul George, according to reports, this came in today. If I have this on my phone, this is from Shams Charania. Paul George has declined multiple below the max offers from the Los Angeles Clippers. So essentially, Paul George could be up for the max contract this summer. Clippers have not offered that to him, and so he's declined them both. He's going to try and get whatever he can, how much money he can on the open market. Kudos to him. That's what I think any athlete should do. Here's my question. Why? You might as well bring Paul George back. You want to lose him for nothing? Like, my thing is bring Paul George back, move him next summer, get something in return. James Harden doesn't have much of a market, so if you bring Harden back, okay, we got a aging point guard who gags in the playoffs. If we bring Westbrook back, we got an inefficient guard who gags in the playoffs. Ty Lue, you want to stick around for this, buddy? Like, this doesn't sound like the greatest, because again, and I detailed it in that clip, which I just showed, the Clippers can't rebuild. They can't. They don't have any picks. They don't have any assets. 3 of their 4 assets are free agents, and their number 1 asset, in theory, can't stay healthy and is signed through 2027. So the one they really should move on from first, they can't because they pigeonholed themselves this January by signing him to a 3-year extension. This was bad business. And again, for the record, this isn't revisionist history. In 2019, I didn't have a podcast in summer of 2019. I did in October of 2019. One of my very first shows, I picked the Clippers to win the 2020 championship. Loved the pairing of Kawhi and Paul George. Thought the fit worked. Thought the roster construction was good. I still think that's the best Clippers roster in this Paul George Kawhi experiment over the last 5 years. Since the choke 3-1 lead to Denver, I'm like, okay, I'm out. Now, I'm never buying stock in the Clippers again, and that's gone on to be a pretty good decision on my part. I don't get this at all. So this is a problem of the Clippers' own doing. Lawrence Frank, Steve Ballmer. This is everybody has to share blame in this. They were in a tough spot because obviously Russ and Paul George and potentially even Kawhi were going to be free agents this summer. At least keep your assets. Instead of trading for James Harden, who's getting older, is frustrated with every stop he ends up in, doesn't play defense, and oh, by the way, is the most notorious playoff choke artist in the history of basketball. I've had great takes. I'm not going to lie. I've had many. I don't even put this that high because I felt like it was kind of obvious that since the Harden trade, not only was it not going to work this year, but they've screwed themselves for the future. So now at this point, the Clippers' only option, to me at least, is now we got to keep Harden. Now we got to keep Paul George. Otherwise, we're stuck with an injured Kawhi, a washed Westbrook, and no assets. So like I said, if Ty Lue wants to, listen, I'm not saying the Lakers' job is that attractive because frankly, don't think it is because I think there's a chance LeBron leaves. If Ty Lue wants to strap himself in for this, okay, buddy. I mean, you know what? From the Clippers' mindset, they could look at it as, hey, we'll pull a New Orleans Saints. Now I know Sean Payton left the Saints, didn't coach for a year, then went to Denver. But the Saints traded him to Denver because he was still under contract with them. Maybe Ty Lue is the Clippers' biggest asset. I don't know. They're really, really, really screwed. Really screwed. Can't emphasize that enough. Patrick. Oh, the irony. The basement dwellers have wrote their own obituary. Hilarious. Oh, have they? No, they screwed themselves over. They really did. There you go. Okay, so this here's some breaking news in, and I don't think this is any surprise to anybody. According to Shams, San Antonio Spurs' Victor Wembanyama has won the 2023-2024 NBA Rookie of the Year award. He's the first player in league history to reach 1,500 points, 700 rebounds, 250 assists, 250 blocks, and 100 made three-pointers in a single season. That is amazing. So not the first rookie, the first player. I want to repeat that. 1,500 points, 700 rebounds, 250 assists, 250 blocks, and 100 made threes in a single season. So this is one of those athletes that comes across once a generation that we try and nitpick. We're like, well, maybe, again, the injury concern, I get that, but you look up and down Wemby, you're like, yeah, there's no reason this guy shouldn't be one of the greatest players who ever lived. Like, there really isn't. And again, I don't think we should do the Jordan comparison. Is he going to be Michael Jordan? That's what we're doing with Anthony Edwards, and I hate it. But the ability to shoot the three the way he does at 7'5", the ability to handle the basketball, the ability to be an absolute rock down low in terms of being a rim protector and a shot blocker, to score with ease. He got, again, when Victor first started his rookie season, and this is to be expected for most rookies at 19 years of age, it's kind of inefficient. End of the year, he was having some impressive shooting splits, and some of these stat lines he was putting up in some of these games, you're like, oh my God, this is like David Robinson. I mean, maybe David Robinson, I think at one point had a quadruple double in his career. It is, yeah, this kid is, and I said coming out of the draft, I said if he's healthy, he'll be one of the 10 greatest basketball players who ever lived. I truly believe that. I truly believe that. I get, again, that's breaking my own rule of not comparing them to greats. There's certain guys, again, LeBron, when it came around in 2003, LeBron was an 18-year-old who was built like a 30-year-old. It's, okay, this guy, they called him the chosen one, where it's, maybe we shouldn't have gone that far, although he exceeded that. If LeBron is healthy throughout the course of his career, he should be one of the greatest players of all time. And gosh darn it, in my opinion, he's the greatest player of all time. No lower than number 2. I don't think Wemby's going to enter the GOAT discussion, although why should we put limits on the kid? But top 10 ever? Yeah, I don't see why he can't. I really don't see why he can't. So kudos. That was, with all due respect to Chet, who had a great rookie year, this kid is, man, he's different. He's doesn't look the same as everybody else. Just there's certain guys that come around and it's freakish when you talk about their overall game and their abilities. So no question about that. The Spurs could be an attractive free agent destination this year. I know I've heard Klay Thompson people suggest Klay Thompson could go there. Paul George potentially. I think Paul and Klay want to win. Like right now, the Spurs are not there yet, but they've got some nice players. They got Vassell, who's the kid? Forgetting his name, number 10. His name, it's in my, I swear it's in my head. Sohan is who's the thing about it, really good player. So San Antonio's got some nice pieces that can develop around. We know that they have as good of a player development operation with the Spurs as anybody in professional sports. So they're in really good shape. And by the way, Victor is 20. So he's still got plenty of developing to do, plenty of getting better to do, and it's gonna be fun to watch his continued progression over the next 10, 15 years. It's gonna be a blast. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. Appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, be sure to catch Carving It Up live on Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, or Twitter rather, as well as the Carving Up YouTube channel and the Grid Network YouTube channel. Also, be sure to like, share, comments, and please take 2 seconds out of your day. Hit that big red subscribe button down there. Helps the channel grow exponentially. We really appreciate it. We are this close. We are 22 subscribers last I checked, away from 1,001K. So if you have not subscribed, hey, just takes a couple seconds. Hit that big red subscribe button down there if you're on YouTube. If you have subscribed, thank you so much. Your support means the absolute world to me and to everybody who's involved with the show. Please tell your friends about it, your family about it, everybody you know about it, except for your sleeping cat. It rained where I'm at today. My cat was not happy about it. Let's put it mildly. But tell everybody you know about the show. We would greatly appreciate it. Fun show today. Barry Grant Jr. stopped by. Shout out to Barry, All Even Podcast. Please go check his stuff out on YouTube, Twitter, TikTok. Well, for however much longer TikTok's around. Anywhere you get your podcast, check out the All Even Podcast hosted by the legend himself, Barry Grant Jr., who deliver the heat once again today, as he always does. All right, I will see y'all on Wednesday. Please be sure to stay safe out there. Please be sure to take care of your physical as well as your mental health. And please be sure to contact your local state representatives and senators to demand change for gun violence in America. No matter where you lean, right, left, center. This is an issue that picks every single one of us each and every day. And no matter what anybody on either side of the aisle tries to gaslight you on, that there's one solution to the problem, or that we can't fix the problem at all even. That's both of those are total lies. It's a multifaceted issue, multi-layered issue that we all got to come together to address and fix. Let's do our parts and stop this horrible thing from happening. All right, I will see y'all on Wednesday. Carving up the context, Bryce's best 10, a lot of NBA playoff stuff. We got the Knicks tonight. We got Timberwolves Nuggets game 2, which will be a blast to watch. Cannot wait. I will see y'all then. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. I'm not sure why Darvin Ham's a good coach. I haven't figured that out yet. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.